I'd like to go back to talking about business cases, return on investments, the money, and specifically in this video, errors that can creep into the presentations of those proposals to do with misinterpretation of data, so statistical biases that creep in, and specifically two biases. One is called the base rate bias, and the other are biases over misunderstanding sample sizes. And the best way, perhaps, I think, to illustrate that is with some stories. The first one is a very well-known medical example of base rate bias, and in this case told through the story of some aliens. So if you could just stay with it for a minute. So imagine this. Aliens land on Earth. They visit a small town, population size 1,000, and they bite 10 people. And the people they bite are going to get zombieism. They're going to become zombies. The aliens leave, and your job as a doctor is to find out who has this zombieism illness. And you have a test, and it's a great test. The test actually has a 99% accurate detection rate. So you're going to get 99 out of 100 right. And off you go. You test all 1,000 people. Now 10 people were bitten and you're at 99% right. So of the 10 people, you test them, 99% of those 10 people test correctly, test positive. It's 9.9 people, let's call it 10. You get them all. Sounds fantastic, doesn't it? But the base rate bias that creeps in is that we're ignoring the other half, the other facts. And the other facts are, what about the false positives? And if I now told you that there was just a 1% chance of getting a false positive, sounds pretty good actually, doesn't it? But the problem is you test all 1,000 people. 1% of those 1,000 people will test false positive. 1% of 1,000 is 10. So 10 people test false positive. So how many people tested positive? Well, of the 1,000, the 10 that have it, but the 10 that don't, or rather 10 that don't. That's 20 people testing positive, and only 10 have it. 99% accuracy is misleading, because actually in this particular example, half of the people that test positive have got zombieism. Now I said it's a famous test because actually it's a medical test for a certain type of cancer, and it explains why in fact it's not good to get the test unless you're showing symptoms of the particular disease or the illness that this cancer. That same error can creep into business plans and business cases and proposals, ROIs, when we have such a small sample relative to the total size and we're only looking at one side of it. Let me give you another example. This is more the sample size itself. Probably again illustrated nicely with a real world, so the aliens aren't real, but that was cancer, a real world example, and a famous philanthropic fund doing a great deal of good, by the way, that it's well documented, have made a mistake in investing in something because of the presentation of so-called facts, but not having the whole story. In this case, it's about schools, and the so-called fact is this. Children who go to small schools do better. It's a fact. It doesn't really matter which geography you're looking at. Small schools get better results than average schools, or larger, let's say larger schools. The problem with interpreting this kind of data is we then go off to try and find reasons to justify the data we're given. You've heard of lies, damn lies, and statistics, I think often true. So what's the reason that small schools do better? Well, let me think. Maybe the head teacher knows all the children by name. It's super friendly. There are lots of afternoon clubs. The class sizes are probably going to be smaller. We'll come up with loads of reasons to justify why small schools do better. Problem with this great big fund is they plowed $1 billion or a huge amount of money into building lots of small schools. If I now told you that small schools do worse than the average as well, and how can that be? And what we're saying is, well, there are going to be some schools that do really well, and there's a greater propensity of them to be small schools, and there's going to be some schools that do really badly, there's a greater propensity for them to be small schools too. How can we justify that now? And what is the cause of this? And the cause is the sample size. So in small schools, the sample is small. There might be 100, 200 children versus a few thousand in your average school. In the average school, picture the performance of the children being a normal curve. When outliers come in, so some children very gifted, doing ever so well, some children not so much, normal curve, most are in the middle. The odd outlier doing exceptionally well that year, 10 A stars or whatever it might be, and the odd outlier doing fairly badly, they will not have that much of an effect on the total. But picture the small school with a small set class doing their exams this year at grade whatever it might be, GCSEs in the case of the UK. You only need one outlier to do outstandingly well to distort the total results of the school that year for that year group in exams. Conversely, you only need one child to just be poor and fail everything to bring it all down. This is why small samples swing violently and large samples don't. And the sample size is so important. And I see business cases often, and I've produced some, I've been guilty of this myself and had them rejected. I'm never making the mistake again, where the sampling of whatever it is you're looking at is so small relative to the total population, and then assumptions and extrapolations are made. Well, we measured 10 or 100. Based on that, if we multiply by the total population or over a year, we're going to generate this much in savings. It's rubbish, I'm afraid. It doesn't take into account things like seasonal variation and, well, you just did all your measurements on Tuesday and that's when the bills go out, and that's why we see this. If you've been here on all the other days of the week, and actually first week of the month, not a good month, not a good week to be here. December, not a good month to be here. It just doesn't work. And I'm not a fan of it at all anymore. And I think the way to go is you've got to look at a much bigger data set, look at actual statistics and do this differently. So I hope you enjoyed the description or the analysis of a couple of biases. I'm perhaps a little sad in that I enjoyed reading a book on statistics that went through all of these different issues. Plenty of websites that do it too, but the book I thoroughly enjoyed. And if you'd like short stories, little chapters dealing with lots of different statistical biases, so you want to wise up, I'll put the details of the book in the comments. Thanks for watching.